Israel organized a second land raid with air support in the north of Gaza. A senior Hamas commander was neutralized. As Unique Eyes Team, we have compiled all the hot developments for you. Let's get started. On Friday, 27 October, Israeli jets took to the air once again. And in the raids that took place at noon, targets that were seen as a threat to the ground troops were neutralized. The Israeli military claimed that warplanes and drones assisted in the attack by striking targets in the Shujaiya region. The Israeli military, supported by aircraft and drones, the Israeli military is currently battling on two fronts, one in the north and one in the southwest, to defend its right to self-defense from Hamas and Hezbollah. Since they began in Gaza, these fights have spread to the Israeli city of Haifa and subsequently to the northern borders of Israel. Still, the IDF is making no bones about waging all-out offensive operations against either enemy. The Israeli Defense Force is currently conducting a ground offensive campaign in Gaza. On the Israeli-Lebanese border's northern front, the IDF has launched an attack. Israeli forces numbering in the hundreds of thousands keep the peace along this front. In response to Hezbollah ostensibly backed by Iran declaration of war against Israel today, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu pledged to increase attacks in the region. Netanyahu made these critical comments to troops stationed on the northern border. The northern Israeli frontier has become a battleground in the past 24 hours due to this visit today. Since the conflict began, the IDF has destroyed more Hezbollah targets than ever before. Some of the most covert Hezbollah offices were among the targets destroyed. Their command center has allegedly been a key target of Israeli attacks since the conflict began. The IDF gathered a lot of information before beginning offensive operations to destroy these headquarters. The actions taken by the Shin Bet and Mossad sparked one of the IDF's most ferocious offensive operations against Hezbollah in northern Israel since the conflict started. The Israel Defense Forces began simultaneous operations today against a key Hezbollah stronghold. The Israeli Defense Forces said today that they had hit a military camp and a watchtower used by Hezbollah in southern Lebanon. A response to shelling from Lebanon. According to the Israeli military, the video shows that two buildings were damaged by the airstrikes, a military barracks and an observation point belonging to the Hezbollah terror group were among the targets of attacks that the IDF claimed responsibility for today in southern Lebanon. The Israeli Defense Forces claim that they destroyed a Hezbollah terror cell's arsenal in a cross-border airstrike. A fighter cell in southern Lebanon and an anti-tank missile launcher were also destroyed in the strike, the Israeli Defense Forces said shortly afterward. The Israeli military has reason to believe the group planned to fire missiles from the area around the border town of Shlomi. These atrocities have severely weakened Hezbollah's backing for Hamas in the region. The IDF didn't want this conflict to turn into an NS stalemate, so they kept fighting to maintain it under their hands. As part of this operation, the IDF's war against Hezbollah along Israel's northern borderlines raged on. Israeli military officials confirmed today that an intruding drone was destroyed by the Iron Dome air defense system after it had flown across the Mediterranean Sea from Lebanon. Over Ain Hamafrats, south of Acre, the drone was shot down. The Iron Dome missile, and not the drone, is likely to blame for the rocket sirens heard in Ain Hamafrats and Kafar Masarik. EDF forces began their offensive in the north after an abortive attempt by Hezbollah to use drones. After many failed attacks by Hezbollah, the IDF sought to destroy their targets with unmanned aerial vehicles. The Hermes and Heron drones used by the Israeli army were active in the area of fighting. The IDF claims that when a drone strike targeted militants in southern Lebanon, they were planning an anti-tank guided missile attack close to the northern border in the Mount Dof area. Israeli military officials have claimed that they have launched drone strikes against two additional Hezbollah positions in southern Lebanon in advance of anti-tank guided missile raids. The IDF claims that one of the groups planned to launch a missile attack on Mount Dof, while the other group planned to launch a missile attack near the northern town of Matatz. As the conflict continues, IDF's 2 drone strikes have dealt heavy damage to Hezbollah. This attrition campaign appears to be ongoing, according to reports. According to the Israeli military, artillery firing has continued into the area. Along the northern borders, Israeli planes have been patrolling and attacking Ortiz. These were the second and third attacks by the Israeli Defense Force against Hezbollah positions in southern Lebanon using jet fighters today. The IDF has claimed responsibility for another drone strike in southern Lebanon. The IDF said the group was ready to fire rockets near the Mount Dov border in the north. The IDF has now launched its 4th attack today in retaliation for Hezbollah's constant barrage of rockets and missiles. It also has an alliance with Hamas's military wing. How Mount Dov became a battleground is beyond me. Hezbollah has launched many rocket attacks from here since the conflict began. Hezbollah's rocket assaults on northern Israel around Mount Dov have mostly decreased after previous IDF attacks in the area. The Israeli Defense Force IDF claimed after these operations that they had killed many Hezbollah soldiers. In this light, Hezbollah, which receives support from Iran, has identified at least 29 of its members who were killed in Israeli attacks during the past 2 weeks. IDF attacks in northern Israel have resulted in the destruction of 20 Hezbollah units since the conflict began, adding to the already high death toll. 8 Hezbollah headquarters and a dozen missile launchers were among the targets. 2 of these HQs allegedly have connections to Hezbollah's secret underground networks. Given the success and intensity of the IDF's activities, it is hardly surprising that Israeli forces have destroyed 4 Hezbollah sites in the past 24 hours. The discovery that Hezbollah's underground headquarters had been destroyed was a major shock. This is evidence of the success of Israeli intelligence operations along the country's northern borderlines, where clashes have been increasing despite the IDF's best efforts to preserve security. Israel has reportedly evacuated 14 more settlements after already removing the majority of the residents from 28 border towns and villages along the Lebanese border. With Hezbollah's decline in influence, Hamas can see that the conflict is shifting in Israel's favor. Hamas now appears to be leaning toward supporting the release of hostages. A high-ranking Israeli official claims that Hamas may release some hostages today. An insider, however, cautioned that progress is slow and discussions are tough. This comes as an IDF source said that 50 foreign hostages may soon be released as a result of negotiations between the United States, Qatar, and Hamas. Hamas has abducted almost 200 people at this point. Both Hamas and Hezbollah appear exhausted, so Israel may receive good news about the hostages as the fighting progresses. Obviously, the actions and policies of the United States of America cannot be ignored. Washington has warned Iran, which is seen as supporting Hezbollah, to tone down the violence. Considering Iran's inflammatory language toward the conflict, this warning was well-timed, even apart from the resolution of the hostage situation. The United States' backing for Israel, however, went beyond this. Senior U.S. military officers with experience in urban warfare were supporting the IDF, according to Pentagon officials, amid rising doubts about Israel's ability to launch and sustain a mechanized ground offensive in Gaza to remove Hamas. This crucial disclosure concerning the advisory mission comes at a crucial time. The United States isn't the only country to publicly back Israel. France did so as well. Emmanuel Macron, president of France, came to Israel to show his support. He plans to speak with French captive families as well as Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Israeli President Reuven Rivlin. Hamas has murdered 30 French citizens and abducted 7 others. In sum, the West stepped up its attempts to resolve the war, while Israel defended its territory and citizens against Hamas and Hezbollah strikes. We appreciate your vigilance. We're here for you 24/7 with the freshest, most reliable news coverage. Please subscribe to our channel, like our videos, and hit the super thanks button so you don't miss any of our updates and vlogs on the newest events in the Israeli war. Please join us again on our next endeavor.